Hey everybody, Brooks here, Senior Pastor, First Baptist Church of the Islands. Thank you for joining me for today's 5 for 5. This is an interesting week. It's what they call Passion Week, leading up to Sunday, which is Easter Sunday. And we're doing things a little bit differently for our 5 for 5s. Of course, if you're not familiar with these, it's 5 of our pastors doing 5 daily devotions, 5 days a week, 5 minutes or less, so 5 for 5. And we love for people to share these. And so if you get this and it really encourages you, be sure to pass it along. But we're also this week following kind of the same events, at least some of them, as they unfolded the week of that very first Easter 2,000 years ago. Well, on Monday, Jesus entered the temple in Jerusalem, and it was one of 2 instances where he cleansed the temple, meaning he drove out the money changers. Well, that's an interesting passage of scripture. It's a little conflicting for some people because they wonder, was it wrong for Jesus to get angry? Well, it wasn't wrong for him to get angry because of the reason behind it. What he was doing was he was cleaning out those who were using God and using the temple for their own personal gain. And in that passage of scripture in Mark chapter 11, what we find is that when Jesus cleanses the money changers out of there, he's doing something that was necessary. The money changers had set up shop right there in the temple, on temple grounds. And what they were doing was they were exchanging money from the Jews that had come to offer their offerings, and they were doing that at an exorbitant cost. They were gouging people basically in the name of religion, but they were also providing animals. It was nothing for them to declare animals that had been brought for sacrifice as disapproved, right, or unacceptable, and then they would sell another animal for sacrifice again at an exorbitant cost. They were profiting from God, basically. They were piggybacking on God for their own personal gain. They were using God. Well, Jesus had an issue with that, and he did the same thing at the beginning of his public ministry about 3.5 years before. And here he does it at the close of his ministry. And what he's reminding us is that God is not in the business of us using him for our personal gain. Yes, he blesses us. Yes, he takes care of us. That is awesome how he does that. But he is not one to be used. What he desires is to use our lives ultimately to glorify himself, and that's a good thing. And so I want to ask you today, how are you viewing God? Are you allowing him to use you, or are you using him? And this is what Scripture tells us in Mark chapter 11 about that scene. It says in verse 15 that they came to Jerusalem and they entered the temple, and that he entered the temple, Jesus, and he began to drive out those who were buying and selling in the temple. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who were selling doves, and he would not permit anyone to carry merchandise through the temple. And he began to teach and say to them, "Is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, but you have made it a robber's den"? So are you using God, or are you allowing God to use you? Man, I hope as we lead towards Easter, you'll examine your heart. You'll surrender yourself to him fresh and new today. God bless you.